The brothers hadn't seen each other in a long time. Life had pulled them in different directions, but there was one thing: they always shared a deep love for fishing. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video. So, when Justin suggested they spend a day in nature, away from phones and obligations, his older brother Derek agreed without hesitation. They headed out early that morning to a peaceful nature reserve, one they had visited many years ago. The sun cast a golden hue over the lake as they unpacked their gear, and the sound of birds echoed faintly in the background. It was the perfect day. As the hours passed, the fishing rods remained still. No bites, not a single tug. But neither of them minded. Derek, nearing retirement, shared stories of his latest plans, while Justin talked about spraining his ankle on a hiking trail. They laughed, reminisced, and for the first time in years, they felt like kids again, carefree and connected. But while they were catching up, they were also being watched. Hidden deep in the tall grass nearby, a pair of eyes fixed on the brothers. Silent, calculating, waiting. They were not alone. The breeze picked up slightly, rustling the leaves, but it didn't disturb the grass near the shoreline. That movement came from something else. Something alive, something with patience. And just as the sun began its descent, turning the sky a warm amber, the presence in the grass crept forward. At that very moment, another man happened to be nearby. A birdwatcher, trailing a rare ivory-billed woodpecker through the trees, had wandered close to the lake's edge. He raised his camera to follow the bird's movement, scanning the treetops, and then by sheer coincidence his lens landed on the two fishermen in the distance. The serene scene of two brothers sitting by the water captivated him. He lowered the zoom and snapped a picture, hoping to capture the moment. But what his eyes didn't see, the camera did. As he reviewed the photo, a chill ran down his spine. In the corner of the frame, just behind the brothers, something was moving. A figure large, low to the ground, eyes glinting. And it wasn't human. Panic surged through him. He dropped his camera and sprinted down the hill, waving his arms and shouting, trying desperately to get the men's attention. Derek turned first. He furrowed his brows. "What the heck is this guy doing?" he muttered. The birdwatcher's words were unintelligible, carried away by the wind. But his face said it, all pure terror. The grass behind the brothers stopped moving for a moment, sensing the disturbance. But it wasn't retreating. It was ready. Then came the scream, "Run! Behind you!" Justin and Derek spun around just in time to see it emerge, an enormous alligator, over 12 feet long, erupting from the reeds like a nightmare brought to life. Its jaws wide open, teeth glistening, its hissing roar echoed across the lake. Water exploded behind it as it lunged forward. For a moment the brothers froze, paralyzed by shock. But then instinct kicked in. They turned and ran, bolting toward the hill. The birdwatcher was already halfway back up, motioning frantically for them to follow. The gator gave chase, its body thundering through the mud, claws tearing into the earth. Justin's ankle screamed with pain, but he pushed through it. Derek grabbed his arm, practically dragging him up the slope. The gator was fast, terrifyingly fast. They could hear its breaths and the sound of its massive body moving through the brush like a tank. At the top, the three men darted into the wood. It was the only way to escape. They stopped near a tree where the birdwatcher had dropped his bag earlier. Panting, clutching their knees, the brothers tried to make sense of what just happened. Why would an alligator attack them unprovoked? They weren't near its nest, and they hadn't caught any fish. That's when Justin noticed something strange. The alligator, now pacing below the hill, had a shiny metal strap on its back leg. Derek leaned forward. "It's injured," he said. "That must be why it attacked." Then the birdwatcher, still catching his breath, remembered his camera. "Maybe it caught more than I saw." He rummaged through his bag, found the camera, and hit play on the video clip he'd unknowingly recorded while sprinting. They saw themselves running. At first it was uneventful. But just as the alligator burst through the water behind them, a small metallic object flew off its body, something not natural. A flash. It disappeared into the tall grass. "What the hell was that?" Derek muttered. Suddenly, the sound of a vehicle approaching broke their focus. A park ranger's SUV rolled into view, its headlights cutting through the trees. He stopped near the shoreline and stepped out, hand on his tranquilizer rifle. The gator was still pacing. The ranger took aim. The dart hit its mark. The beast growled once, stumbled, then collapsed into the grass. As the ranger walked over, he spotted the metal strap on the gator's leg. His face darkened. "What's this?" he asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. "You do this?" "No," Justin replied, pulling out the birdwatcher's camera. "Watch this." They showed him the footage. The ranger watched in silence. Then, slowly, he nodded. "We've had poaching problems before, but this is something else." The ranger's face turned from suspicion to concern. He crouched near the tranquilized gator, carefully inspecting the metallic strap clamped around its hind leg. It wasn't random. This wasn't some discarded piece of trash the animal had stepped on. The strap had been fastened deliberately and tightly. There were markings, scratches, and what looked like a tiny puncture near its side, possibly from a dart or a tagging device. The ranger stood slowly, his eyes narrowing. "This was no accident," he said. "Someone tagged this gator, and probably didn't do it legally." Justin and Derek exchanged glances. "Why would someone do that?" Derek asked. "Poachers," the ranger said. "They don't just go after animals for skins or trophies. Some of them use animals as bait or worse, tag them for tracking and illegal study. If this gator went rogue, there's a reason." They all turned toward the tall grass. "We need to go back," the ranger said, motioning for the group to follow. That shiny object from the video hit ever it was, it's connected. Night had fallen completely by the time they reached the base of the hill. Flashlights cut through the darkness as they searched the area where the glint had been seen in the video. The wind had died down, and the air felt heavy, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Derek's beam landed on something buried slightly beneath the grass. "Over here!" he called out. The others gathered around. It was a metal trap, more specifically, a snare, industrial, illegal, and deadly. "This shouldn't be here," the ranger said grimly. "Not in a protected nature reserve." The birdwatcher knelt beside it, brushing away more grass. "It's new, not rusted, freshly placed." The implications were sobering. Someone had been here recently, very recently, and if this snare was one of many, the entire area could be littered with them. The birdwatcher looked up. "We have to call the police." And they did. Within the hour, more rangers and officers arrived, some in uniform, some plain clothes, all serious. The area was taped off, and an official investigation began. The brothers and the birdwatcher were asked to give statements. The alligator, now sedated and safely transported to a wildlife facility, would be examined. But what concerned the police more was the growing suspicion that this was not an isolated incident. The following morning, the three men were invited to accompany the officers back to the reserve. This time, they were joined by a small search team, equipped with detection gear, wildlife experts, and more flashlights than any of them had ever seen. They started at the original fishing spot, carefully combing through the tall grass and nearby trees. Within minutes, one officer called out, "Another trap over here!" It was almost identical to the first spring, loaded, steel, wired, and brutal. Then came another, and another. 6 traps were found within a 100-meter radius. All active, all deadly. "This isn't amateur work," one ranger whispered. "This is organized." The brothers stood in disbelief. What had started as a peaceful fishing trip had uncovered a dangerous and illegal operation hiding in plain sight. Then the ranger said something that made them all freeze. "This one has a GPS transmitter." "What?" asked Justin. The ranger held it up. "These guys wanted to know the moment their traps were triggered. That means they're nearby, watching, maybe even planning to check the traps tonight." Suddenly, the forest didn't feel so peaceful anymore. But instead of retreating, the police made a bold decision. "We'll leave the traps as they were," said one officer. "Let them come back. We'll be waiting." The plan was straightforward, but dangerous. They would use the traps to lure the culprits back, stake out the area from hidden positions, and catch them in the act. The brothers, still shaken but eager to help, offered to stay nearby in case their presence helped maintain the illusion of an untouched scene. The birdwatcher agreed too, determined to see justice served. That night, they returned to the reserve. Flashlights were replaced with infrared binoculars and night vision scopes. Officers took positions around the perimeter, camouflaged in the undergrowth. Everyone held their breath as the forest fell into an eerie silence. Hours passed. Then movement, a faint rustle, the soft snap of a twig. A thermal silhouette flickered through the night vision lens. 2 more joined it. They were moving carefully, methodically. The trap site drew them in like moths to a flame. "They're here," one officer whispered into his radio. The 3 figures emerged from the trees, dressed in dark, nondescript clothing. One of them carried a small tablet, likely linked to the GPS traps. They bent low, inspecting the snares, completely unaware of the eyes watching them from all sides. The trap had worked. "Now!" came the officer's signal. Flashlights beamed on all at once, flooding the clearing in harsh white light. The suspects were caught mid-motion, eyes wide, hands frozen in place. "Don't move!" barked the lead officer. Panic took over. One tried to run but tripped over a root and slammed into the ground. The others dropped to their knees, hands raised. Within moments, they were cuffed. The search of their bags revealed more traps, animal tranquilizers, and illegal hunting equipment. But the worst discovery came when authorities traced the GPS signals back to a hidden base deeper in the wood. A raid was launched the next morning. Behind a false wall in what looked like an abandoned shed, they uncovered something horrifying. Cages stacked with animals, some alive, others not. Vials of animal DNA samples, computers loaded with photos and data, and pelt so many animal skins it turned the officers' stomachs. It wasn't just poaching. It was an operation. The three captured men confessed to being part of a black market wildlife trade ring. For years, they'd been using remote traps to catch rare species, sedate them, and ship them to illegal buyers around the world. The metallic strap on the alligator, a tracking device used to test how animals move through the reserve so they could set smarter traps. That alligator was never meant to attack. It was a victim, just like so many others. The case exploded in the news. Photos of the traps, the wounded animals, and the illegal facility spread like wildfire across social media. Animal rights organizations rallied. Officials were forced to review safety protocols at all nature reserves. As for Justin and Derek, they were hailed as accidental heroes.